Yes, I just came out of a meeting with over 300 farmers across the prairies. My main message was that this is their organization. They run it, they pay for the entire cost of its operations, so they are the ones that should decide its future, and we're demanding that a plebiscite be held.
You seem some of your comments seem pretty dire, suggesting that there's no way the Wheat Board will survive if it goes ahead with the legislature, the government goes ahead with the legislature.
No, that's true. The Wheat Board has no assets. Without the financial guarantees that the federal government provides, it would be very difficult for the Canadian Wheat Board to operate as a grain company.
Are you looking at any possible options for survival then?
Yes, we're looking at other options, but we think it's incumbent on the minister to clarify his position as to what a strong and viable CWB means. He's been talking about this for 4 or 5 years. Surely he needs to communicate that not only to the board but to farmers as well.
What are those options? If you can talk about that.
Well, that's for the minister to decide what a strong and viable CWB would mean. That's the question best put to him.
Key part of your message here is you want farmers to have the right for a vote. But he says there was an election campaign. You know, the rural ridings went strong conservative.
I don't think too many people are buying that logic. Clearly farmers vote for a number of different reasons in the federal election. If we look at our own director elections, 8 out of 10 directors strongly support the single desk. So farmers vote for a number of different reasons when they vote in a federal election.
What kind of plebiscite are you looking for? What kind of question?
It would have to be a two-part question. Clearly you support single desk marketing for wheat and barley, or you don't, because that's really what's at stake and what's at issue here.
But there's already been a plebiscite. A couple of years ago there was a question put to farmers, and the government has been arguing since that point that it's been given the mandate.
There was a three-part questionnaire on barley that was run in 2007, but no definitive answers came from that.
Alan, do you think you have any chance of having a plebiscite?
Certainly I think there's a good chance. The Manitoba government is also calling for that producers need to have the right to decide. So I think with the message that I heard from farmers this morning, there is a lot of impetus for that to happen.
How confident are you that you would win?
I think, and our surveys back this up, that most farmers see the benefits of the single desk. It's their own organization, it's a powerful advocate on their behalf, it works on branding and promotion issues of Canadian wheat, so there's many facets to the Canadian Wheat Board.
And
You're working on...
should you not win or vote or no vote, how prepared is the board to go forward under a new system?
Well, clearly if there was a vote and the result was that farmers want changes, I guess as chair I would certainly cooperate with whatever producers want.
But is the board actually working towards making changes in that eventuality? Are you planning for the possibility?
We're looking at a number of different options. We're putting it to the minister that we need some definition around what he means by strong and viable. And as I said, if it's the Wheat Board loses the single desk and has to operate as a grain company, it would need some major concessions from the federal government to survive.
Such as?
Such as a capital base, such as access to facilities. Those are the kinds of things it would need to compete in an open market today.
Why don't you think it can at all? Because there are some companies that have gone private before. You point out yourself, Air Canada, for example, used to be. CN was privatized. And
yes, those companies did go private and had a huge amount of assets to work from. Air Canada had a fleet of airplanes. CN had all kinds of track and rolling stock. The Canadian Wheat Board has nothing. It's simply a marketing agency. It's never operated as a grain company, and to expect it now after 75 years to change and compete against people who have been in the business, that's simply naive.
Some would argue, Alan, that your group has all the market intelligence, so you actually do have something. What do you say about that?
Certainly we have good people and dedicated staff, but if you don't have capital to finance your operations, or you don't have access to facilities, it doesn't matter how good your people are, you're simply not going to make it in an open system.
You got some support from the Manitoba government the other day. What sort of lobbying, if any, is being done to get support from other governments?
I asked all farmers today to contact their local MPs, that this is an issue that they need to decide, to try to put some pressure on the federal government to obey the law. That's what the current act says, that any major changes to the board need to be decided by producers.
I mean, do you want more government support from Saskatchewan and Alberta, I guess, specifically?
I would certainly welcome that support.
What do you think the odds are of that happening?
I think that's a question better put to them.
What clout do you have to prevent this from happening? You're urging them to do a farmer vote. They say they're going to introduce legislation. What avenues do you have, if any?
Clearly they have a majority, and that gives them the right to make changes. We're hoping that they do obey the current law, the current act. Those safeguards were put in the act in 1999 just to prevent this type of thing from happening. So they'll keep up the pressure, and hopefully they'll do the right things for the right reasons.
What are you hearing from farmers? So you said you spoke to 300. Can you just sort of tell us
I
what they
didn't
said
hear
this
one
morning?
farmer today that was opposed to the idea of farmers deciding this issue, and that this is a democratic decision that they need to make.
You can forgive my ignorance here, but I just wanted to ask a little bit more about what the wheat board is lacking to exist in a voluntary market.
It lacks capital-based financing because it has no facilities either in the country or at port. To operate as a grain company, it would be completely reliant on its competitors to execute sales. So that's not an enviable place to be in.
What do you think the fallout from that would be for farmers then?
The fallout, I think, is that we'll see even more consolidation in the system, fewer grain companies, and to compete, farms will have to get larger and larger. And I don't think that's a positive effect for anybody.
Is there any, and forgive me for asking, I don't know if there's any venue for you to challenge or appeal the change that's coming, is there?
I guess until we see the legislation and what the substance of that legislation is, it'd be premature for me to comment on whether any legal options are possible.
And are you having any discussions right now with government MPs about what scenarios there are for the wheat board if the legislation does go ahead?
We did meet with the minister about 10 days ago. Communicated him very strongly that this was something farmers needed to decide. And again, we're calling for the minister to bring some clarity and definition to this issue in defining what his idea of a strong and viable new CWB, what does that mean?
And Karen kind of touched on this, but how much work is the board doing in terms of looking at other scenarios?
The board over the years has done lots of work on contingencies, various models that might be possible in absence of a single desk. We're looking at those things again. But clearly, until we know what the federal government has in mind as what assistance they would be willing to provide, it's impossible for us to comment on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.